Ahoy! In this video, number 3 of the Learning Scala video series, we are going to cover some of the considerations of conditionals in Scala. So let's go ahead and do that. We've already seen in the previous video, we saw a few if statements. So let's start off with match statements, which are pretty much the same thing as Java switch statements, if you've ever seen one of those. So let's start off by creating a new method and we'll call it test. We'll pass it an integer x and it will return an integer. So we'll create this, and the way we can create a match statement is very similar to a switch statement. So in a switch statement in Java, you type switch and so on. In this case, what we can do is we can say x match, and then we need the braces for this. But we don't need braces for each of the case statements. So we can say if the case is 1, then we can return 5. If the case is 2, then we can return, let's say, I don't know, 10 or something like that. What about if there's the default case? Do we do default? No, what we do instead is we do case underscore, and then we can do 0. So let's write a few little quick things for this so we can see what happens. Test 1. Like that, and then we'll do test 2 and we'll do test 100. So let's run that. What we're expecting to see is 5, 10, 0, which is exactly what we see, and that's pretty much everything there is to know about match statements that I've been able to find. So we do need these braces here, and that's pretty much it. We've got the match. We've got the cases don't have braces, all very good. So let's look at some if statements. Okay, so we can do if true, then we want to say, print line true. Else, we just want to say, I don't know, print or something like that. It's obviously not going to be true. So basic if statement, we can do that in one line, and see it prints true. The rule is that when we don't have, when we have an else statement, we should omit the braces. So we could have written this like this. We could have had a brace here. We could have had a brace here. Cheeky little space there, and maybe a cheeky little brace there, and another brace there. We could have written it like that, and it will still work. So you'll still see it will print true. But we don't need to do that, and in fact, the Scala documentation recommends against that. Another thing we can do as well, if I were to now change this, I've changed my mind, we're actually going to print false over here. So if we say false, if we were to take true and just do this, negate it, will this work? Well, yeah, it will work as well. It works like other languages. We can just negate something. So even though it's a bit weird to have a literal true and negate it, we can still do that with Scala. The next thing I wanted to look at were a few things like the logical operators. So Scala has your standard array of logical operators. So we could do things like if x is equal to, no, it's not equal. So x is greater than 5 and x is less than 10, then we want to just say print ln. And for this, I'm not going to have an else statement, so I'm just going to say print ln, and we'll just say, yep, x is between 5 and 10. If we define x over here as val x and we say 7, run it. Oh, it's moaning. The reason, of course, it's moaning is because I've forgotten to put that second brace there, and now it should work. And yes, it did, but it didn't print anything. And why didn't it print anything? Because I've got the wrong thing got it the wrong way round. This should be that way round. Let's try that again. That should print now. There we go. X is between 5 and 10. So there's This sort of thing, we could also change this to an or, even though it literally wouldn't change a damn thing, because this would still be true. So or is your 2 lines, like that. And of course we've seen negation as well. We can do stuff like, say x is not equal to 10. We could do that, and that'll be totally fine as well. So there are a few other things to consider. For example, what about the else if statement? So let's say we said, for example, y is equal to 420. We could say x is, let's say, less than 300. Then we want to print less than 300. We could also do else if, and we give it another condition. We could say x is equal to 420. We would like to print print ln. We could print nice, and we could also have an else statement there as well, and we can say print ln less than nice. And I've done something daft again. I've added the braces when we don't need to, because remember the rule is that when we have an else statement, we don't need braces. It's not recommended by Scala to have them, so we can get rid of them, and we can run that. We should see it print nice. Oh, it's printed less than 300. Because it's not less than 300, I've done it the wrong way around. That's the way around it should be. There we go. Less than nice. So I've done something terribly. Oh, you see what I've done? I was right the first time. What I've done, again, a rookie error. I was right to do it that way. Instead, I'd put X here, and I should have been putting Y. That's why I was confused. So let's go ahead and run that. It's going to print nice. Hey, there we go. Cool. So that's your else if statement. Pretty similar to other languages. There's not a great deal to say about that one there. Another thing, if you've ever used JavaScript, is there's this concept in JavaScript of truthiness and falsiness. What that basically equates to, if you haven't used those sort of things before, is let's say we had an empty array, right? That's just, in JavaScript, just an empty array, right? If I was to say if and do that, then it would get evaluated to either true or false, depending on the contents of it. So if it's empty, it would get evaluated to false. Similarly, something that's null or something that's undefined would also get evaluated to false in JavaScript. And you could also do things like negate those sort of things to check for the opposite condition. Now in Scala, you actually can't do that. So nothing will actually evaluate to true apart from Boolean. So Boolean is the only thing to do that. If, for example, we would do something like var null is equal to none, and then do var null and just do a print line. We don't even have to do anything here. We just do a print actually like that. It's going to kick off. So run that. It prints off because there's a type mismatch, that it's found the non-type but it required a Boolean. It won't actually do anything for you where it will actually evaluate that to true, even if we did this and negate it. So even if we negate it, it still won't evaluate correctly. It will just kick off. It's not going to work. So that's something you can't do in Scala, which if you've used JavaScript or TypeScript, you'd probably be used to doing quite a lot. Another thing we can do as well is in Java and JavaScript and a number of languages, we have this idea of the ternary statement. The ternary statement is basically like a really concise if statement where you could do something like, your condition. You could do your condition question mark in Java, and you could do, say, true, false. You wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but that's just the idea, is that this side is true and then this side of the colon is false. Scala doesn't have a ternary statement as such, but it does have a way of doing something quite similar, and that you can define, let's say, a function. So we could say, test2, and you could say something like if y is equal to 420, we want to print ln something like asterisks or something, I don't care. So, and then we could have an else as well, and we can just say print ln nothing, and so that works. There's one other thing we could do as well that I wanted to mention in this video, and that's that we could do the same sort of thing. So if we did val test3, we could do, we could basically define this as a function. So we could say something like, I don't know, a, and we'll pass in an integer, and we can say things like, we'll make it a function. We can say if a is equal to 1, then print ln 1. There we go. Else print ln that number, whatever that was, 10,000, 100,000, something like that. And then we can simply call this from elsewhere, just like you would a normal function, because it is basically a normal function. In fact, that is exactly what it is. It's just an alternative way of using these sort of things. So we could say test1, and then we could do test 10. Like that. Run that, and of course, we have done something wrong. What have I done wrong there? That's interesting. I expected that, but it found else. What I've done wrong there, of course, is I have not put in the word if. Run that again, it should work. There we go, that works. So that was another thing I wanted to just sort of show, that we could create this like a function that just does an if else. Quite a simple thing to do. You probably would have figured that out from the second video on functions, but just a little thing to explicitly go over. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover about conditionals in Scala. So I'll see you in the next video. If you have any comments or anything, leave the comments down below. Subscribe for more. I always get this bit wrong. I just go on forever and ever and just carry on talking. It's the end of the video. I probably should just say arrivederci, bye bye, bonjour, tata, guten tag, konnichiwa, au revoir. I've said that.